I still remember how it used to be, holding hands, running wild and free.
Photo of you in my mind, on the table under lights. There's no one here but you and I. This neon town is yours and mine. And I said, hey, Carissa. Stayed up through the days and night, lay and we watched the world get light. Hey, Carissa. Sunlight, freedom in your eyes. Please don't leave now. Photo of you in my mind, on the table under lights. There's no one here but you and I. This neon town is yours and mine. And I said, hey, Carissa. Stayed up through the days and night, lay and we watched the world get light. Hey, Carissa. Sunlight, freedom in your eyes. Please don't leave now.
You don't know the things I do to make you feel right, make you feel alright. And everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Spreading for so long, spreading for so long. Do you feel right? Do you feel right? This is all I wanna know. Are you telling me that you'll be by my side when I wake up at night? And everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. I love the city lights when you never look so bright. This is all I wanna know. Tell me you feel alright. to love me. So tell me that you'll be by my side when I wake up at night. Oh, and everything you wanna know, I'm telling you. I love the city lights when you never look so bright. Oh, this is all I wanna know. Tell me you feel alright. Okay.
A real clockwork soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Generation Orange. My name is Edson Ochoa, and accompanying me is my co-host and really good friend, Sean Ringrose. Sean, what's up? Despacito.
Please don't. That's copyright infringement. Don't do that now.
I blame David.
I blame you for singing. Man, it has been a week, hasn't it? It has not felt like a week. It has been a very busy week, a very packed week, a very packed Dynamo RGV week. We're in the kind of on that cusp of kind of middle of summer. The transfer window officially opened on the 10th, which was, if I'm not mistaken, exactly 1 week ago.
Yes.
We've got a new player in. No telling when that player will actually play a match, let alone start. We have seen a couple of players return from injury, a couple more getting close, getting time with at least one getting time with RGV. And it's just been a week, man. I don't know about you, but when we kind of get to this point of the season, at various times I find myself realizing how much soccer is played in MLS in a single season. Even if you exclude out the international competitions, things like Gold Cup, things like CCL competition, US Open Cup, international friendlies, it is just, the season is just packed full of soccer. And I mean, we're just about the halfway point, and it is pretty crazy to be at this point in the season and kind of had as many matches played already as we've had. So yeah.
It's been, like you say, it's been an interesting week in soccer. Not only for the Dynamo, not only for the Dash, as well as for RGV. And here we are, like every Tuesday, like getting ready to talk about everything that's happened, even with our hectic schedules, which have not let down. But we just love doing this, and I feel like we continue to say this: the fans need to have a voice that many feel are lacking, or given the opportunity, like a true opportunity, to fully express themselves about what they feel about the team, their opinions, right or wrong. And it's good that people in social media have kind of come together in a way, and for the most part, been civil with their discussions, and whether you believe that coach should stay or should go, or this or that. But for the most part, it's been, or at least from what I've seen, it's been pretty chill and civil, which I really have to applaud all of you guys that are watching us right now for being a part of that civil discussion.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. I'm just kidding. I appreciate every one of our watchers, followers, listeners, all the people that hop in on stream nights and hang out and chat. And I know at times it can get a little weird. It's a good way to put it. A little weird. But when Edson says that even if we disagree with your point of view, it's still welcome, it's true.
Or if they disagree with us.
Sure. No, I'm just kidding. At the end of the day, I think it's really important for Dynamo fans to remember that it's okay to disagree. Not everybody's going to, hey, Santos, not everybody's going to agree. Also, hey, Brian, not everybody's going to agree. Not everybody's going to see things the same way. And we just have to make sure that we, as fans, are open to the idea that when it comes to certain things, we may be wrong, whatever it is. And so, yeah, it's just, I look at this season so far, and there are plenty of things that I'm frustrated with, and I know other people are frustrated with, and, we'll talk about most of them tonight, I'm sure. David's got the right idea, or even if Edson disagrees with himself, which happened last week, by the way. And if you haven't watched last week's show, you definitely need to hit the first hour, and then, you could watch the whole second hour if you want, or you can just scroll to the last 30 minutes, because there's just a couple of moments in there that are just can't miss, amazing moments, to say the least. But I sit here and I look at the first half of the season, and again, we're not quite at the halfway point, but whatever. What's up, Harry? You coming into rub in RGV's continued fate near the bottom of the table? I sure hope so, because it seems like about the same fate that San Antonio is going to continue to experience as their season wears on too.
At least we have a decent pitch.
I mean, that's not really something I would be using as trash talk level of,
have you
trash
seen
talk.
their pitch?
Does it really matter, Edson?
Like I said last time, I'll take any small victory that I can.
Yeah, that's a pretty small victory. That's one of those where you
still
just
a victory nonetheless.
Sure. That's one of those, though, that you kind of have to take a step back and go, am I really that proud of our pitch, or am I just that upset that San Antonio has all these things right now that are better than us at? So anyway, the first half of the season, the sandbox is coming. Oh, I know y'all are in the same boat, Harry. That was kind of the point. I look at this first half of the season, and I think my biggest struggle right now, my biggest concern right now, is the fact that we've now seen the team do the same thing at home that they've been notorious for doing on the road. And it comes at a time when realistically we had pretty much our entire starting 11 out there. And they came out and looked great for the first 15 minutes of the match. even I would give him maybe the first 20 to 30. And then after that, there was like nothing. And it's interesting because we talked about this last week, how there seems to be a consistent theme of a lack of tactical adjustment at halftime, or a lack of mentality adjustment at halftime. And where I really find a concern with that is when I look at it, when I look at it, I see a lack of leadership, which we have discussed as well. And it's not just on the pitch leadership, it's off the pitch leadership. It's the guys that are being put in positions of leadership, I feel like, are guys that are lead by example, which we talked about before. They're guys that aren't necessarily your intensity guys. They're not your vocal guys. They're not your Tomas or your Albert Elise or your Romel Kyoto. These are guys that are veterans that are more likely to kind of roll with the punches, not let themselves get hot-headed, not let themselves get let emotion tie into how they respond to things. But at the same time, they're also not the type of leaders that are going to get in the face of someone who's struggling, or who are going to be who are going to make who are going to make a big scene on the pitch. Not a scene, but make a big deal on the pitch of everyone needing to step up type thing. And and that's what I think hurts. Is I look at this team and I see no leadership, and I have to believe that Albert Elise possesses leadership potential. I have to believe that Romel Kyoto possesses leadership potential. I have to believe that Kiki Struna, without an absolute freaking doubt, possesses leadership potential. I have to believe Minor Figueroa possesses leadership potential. And yet I feel like these players are being stymied from that, not because they're not being given the captain's armband or whatever, but I feel like if I watch Boniek before he was given the captain's band and then after he was given the captain's band, I feel like it's a different player at times in terms of the intensity. I can remember Boney being a very heated guy, blowing up at the ref multiple times, just kind of not letting it go. And I'm wondering if it's something that Wilmer has just started to train the players on, that if you want to be that leader in his eyes, you have to be a controlled, calm leader, and you have to show it by example. And I think my problem with that is not all players respond to that the same way. So sure, you could have a team that has 2 or 3 players that they can be the leader by example, and then 2 or 3 players that maybe respond to that type of leadership. But you're going to have 2 or 3, you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other players that don't respond to that type of leadership, that they need a fiery guy. They need a Kiki Struna out there, being very vocal and very demonstrative and being an imposing figure. I mean, if I'm another team coming into BBVA or taking the Dynamo on the road, I'm not afraid of anybody on this team except Kiki. Maybe Minor, but that's even minimal. And it's not that I'm not afraid of them from a physical standpoint. They're all athletic. They're all good at what they do. But I'm not afraid of them in terms of they're going to change the match on a dime. They're not, and why I say this, I look at the match, and one moment that truly stuck out for me was when De Rossi came on the pitch. The match had already turned in LAFC's favor at that point, but the moment he came on the pitch, the problems he created for the Dynamo right side of the defense, the problems he created for the midfield were just another level. And sure, he may not necessarily be an intense guy per se, but you could see the leadership he possesses. Vela didn't need to come on the pitch for LAFC to hit that next gear. De Rossi was able to do it. And that's one of those things that I think if the Dynamo are going to lack it, and I have to wonder again if the Dynamo don't have players that could be that, but that they're maybe being a little bit stymied by Wilmer. And if that's the case, that's yet another thing that I'm sitting here scratching my head going at the end of the season, what's the decision here? Because I'm kind of at that point with everything that I've seen from Wilmer and the struggle the players are having. I can't put this on the players. There are 20-something different players we've seen hit the pitch in the last 2 seasons, maybe even up to 30 now. And to a man, every one of them has had similar struggles. Some of them, it's athletic struggles, and that's because maybe they're not the best depth player. But for most of them, it's been tied to lack of leadership or a lack of whatever you want to call it on the pitch, that showing that passion on the pitch. And I feel like that's something that's discouraged by Wilmer and his coaching staff. And maybe it's coming from Wilmer specifically. Maybe it's coming from the Dynamo specifically. That's not the type of, team they want to be. But I think you need that. I think you've got to have that. And I think it ties in. I'm going to add something else to this. I think it ties into how almost laissez-faire the Frisco rivalry feels on match day. And not from a fan perspective of getting hyped about it, but from a on-field, on the pitch type thing. It doesn't have the same intensity it had years ago. So I don't know, man. That's where I'm at personally. I'm kind of curious where everybody else is, and Harry's right. The stretch coming up is tough, but realistically, we've had a tough stretch since the beginning of June, really since the tail end of May. And we talked about it. This stretch was going to be brutal. No matter how we came out of it, it was going to be brutal. And I think I know this team can bounce back from this stretch. I know they've got the capability to do it. But I think if there's not that leader, that one, maybe two players who, basically take the team aside apart from Wilmer and say, look, we can't change these things. We can't change what's happened. All we can change is how we approach this next match or these next matches or whatever it is. And all we can do is hold each other accountable. And, the players only meeting, if you will, and they have it in the NFL. They have it in baseball. They've had it in basketball. There's no reason we couldn't have it in MLS. And I just feel like the team is at that point where they've got to have that gut check, reality check, come to Jesus moment, whatever the frick you want to call it. They've got to have that moment. And because it's getting deeper and deeper, and I'm seeing these things cropping up more and more frequently, and I'm seeing the kind of response to it being not from fans, but from players almost being like, well, we know we've got to fix it. Okay, I'm tired of the we know we've got to fix it line. That's got to go. I'm done with that line. I've heard that for 3 years. Mm-hmm. That line's got to go. You can take responsibility for it all you want and ownership for it all you want. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. I can tell you right now, I'm going to go run a marathon. That doesn't mean I'm going to go run a marathon. It means I want to go run a marathon. There's a difference. I want to fix what's going wrong with the Dynamo. That doesn't mean I'm going to. It means I want to fix what's going wrong with the Dynamo. And I think it's the same thing with the players. I know they want to fix the issues, but I need to see them. I need to see them doing it. Mm-hmm. And, and they'll say, I've seen 2 or 3 different players interviewed say, we've just got to, we've got to push through this. We've got to deal with it. It's a mentality thing. We just get lazy. Or not lazy, but we get lackadaisical. We just kind of shut off, switch off. Mentally we've got to keep ourselves in it for 90 minutes. And that's, to me, it's just to me, that's feeding a line to the media at that point. You say the same, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the Dynamo right now. And I feel like that's Wilmer right now. And the players have to take some ownership. And I don't mean in the media, and I don't mean taking responsibility. I mean taking ownership and doing something about it. If everybody else around you is struggling, be the spark that changes things and makes things better. Take it to that next level. I see a lot of players right now that I feel like they can be that guy, but somebody has to be the first one to kick it into high gear. And Cisco's right. You know, we missed a lot of chances in that first half. I can think of at least 2 right off the top of my head that Morrow missed. One, the header that he was on the back post and had a perfect opportunity at goal for on a set piece. And then another one that he just inexplicably skied over the goal. That whole part after the first goal, it was frustrating. So this is me venting frustration as much as anything as well. Ranting, but not ranting to the point of an intense, furious anger, fire rant. This is more a letting me get everything out kind of a rant. But, you know, I agree with Callow. I mean, the stuff we see in articles from the Dynamo that are quotes, and maybe these are fed to them from Foster, I read Rip Malik, and that's what I was saying. Maybe it's fed to them by the Dynamo from Wilmer or from Jordan or from whomever. Maybe it's what they hear consistently from Wilmer that they need to address. So that's what they're going to talk about. But I would just love, and I know it's not going to happen because players don't want to cross their coach because then they won't get playing time. But I want a player to go on record and say, look, this is horse crap. We know it's horse crap. You know we need to make the adjustments. Wilmer's not going to be the one to do it. You know, I need some real transparent honesty coming out of that organization and coming out of that locker room right now. These players are losing respect from the fans because it feels like, and I know it's not the case, but it feels like from a fan perspective that they're just kind of trudging through the season, trying to get to the end of the season at this point, and that they're acknowledging the shortcomings, but nobody wants to do anything about it. I know that's not the case, but because there's no transparency into the locker room, because players aren't allowed to speak their minds, because coaching staff isn't allowed to speak their minds, because front office personnel aren't allowed to speak their minds, you get a lot of this regurgitated bullshit. And that's
it all starts at the top, you know.
Yeah.
Gabriel Brenner never coming out. Matt Jordan always giving his rehearsed answers to everything. Wilmer always saying, I think Wilmer's the one that actually has crossed his own players and not really been someone who admits when he's done something wrong. Like when we had those Open Cup matches, he was the first one to say, "Oh, these players are crap, and that's why they're bench players." He wasn't wrong, but I would have loved for him to have said, "Hey, you know what? Well, maybe my tactics in the second half weren't the correct ones, or in any other match that we've lost." And that's one of the things that I don't really like so far about when Wilmer talks on his press conferences. You know, it's always the same, like you say, it's the same regurgitated answers. Oh, we played well, but we couldn't finish our chances, or it was a hard fought battle, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't our, like you say, why can't our players, why can't our coaching staff be more genuine than that?
Cisco, you say you counter that Brenner does come out, and I agree. He's actually out at matches, I think, a lot more often than.
But
fans.
I mean by coming out, like giving.
He doesn't make statements about matches. He's not a public presence when it comes to speaking to the media, or it comes to giving statements about this. You know, the state of the team. You know, he's out at matches a lot, so why can't he speak about his frustrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think honestly at this point, Cisco, and this is directed at Cisco because he's the one that countered, I think at this point for fans, and I don't necessarily specifically feel this way, but I can understand it. I think a lot of fans would empathize with Brenner in the situation if he would come out and say, you know, very, very honestly, just say, this is crap. We know we're playing like crap. I expect better. I want better. We're going to do what we can to fix it. And I feel like I feel like he's done that, but he's done it in the offseason. He's not done it during the season. I've seen quite a few, Cisco, especially here in MLS. And remember, MLS is a different animal. That's the problem. MLS is a different animal, and I feel like Brenner wants to be a very hands-off in terms of team control. He wants to help make decisions, but I don't think he wants to be that public figure in terms of making statements. I don't think he's comfortable being that guy. But I think the team needs somebody who's that guy. It sure as hell should not be ever Oscar De La Hoya. But you have two other minority owners that could be that guy. You have a general manager who could be that guy. You have a head coach who could be that guy. And the problem is, and I don't think it's Brenner's ownership style that causes this. I think it's a decision made by Wilmer and his team. I think Wilmer is honestly the root of this issue. Now, it could be a Matt Jordan thing, or it could be something that's still a holdover from the Canetti era. But I really feel like at some point, Brenner, for his own public image sake, needs to be the guy to come out and just say, the play of the team is not good enough. This is not good enough. This is not acceptable. And so if he's very knowledgeable of the game, why is he very content to play second fiddle to Wilmer and Matt Jordan? And maybe it's that he doesn't feel like he has the position to speak out against them. And that's him being Brenner. Exactly. And I get that. I do get that. But I think if I'm the owner of a business and my manager is sucking it up so bad that my business is struggling, I'm going to call it out. And if it's big enough, if the business is big enough that I have to do it publicly, like if I need to put a press release out there about it, I'm going to do it. Brenner is not a fiery guy in the public sphere. He's a fiery guy if you talk to him one-on-one. Cisco will acknowledge this. He's actually got a lot of passion for the game and a lot of passion for the Dynamo. Yes and no, Harry. There is some of that not. He's a very fiery guy in private. But I think he's gotten to the point he's gotten to. What I mean by that is he's gotten to the point of being a multimillionaire because he's conducted himself the way he has. And I kind of wonder that maybe to some extent he wants to maintain that because that's just what he knows. That's how he knows when it comes to business. And I can see that and I can certainly understand it. But if he's not going to be that guy, then he needs to have somebody who answers to him who is that guy. You can't fill up, especially in sports, you can't have everybody be yes men. It doesn't work. It's never going to work, but it specifically doesn't work. I'm with Callow. I think Brenner is not the issue at this point in time. I think the issue is Wilmer. And because I feel like Brenner and Matt Jordan have provided good enough pieces. I think we've seen it because we've seen how good this team can be. You can't tell me a team that came out and fought against Tigres in El Vacon can come out and play like they did against LAFC at home. This team has plenty of freaking talent. That is not the issue. Our depth is actually pretty talented. The issue is I feel like our depth's not getting coached. I feel like our depth is not getting directed or guided. I feel like it's Wilmer saying
our depth isn't getting used correctly, maybe?
That as well. I don't think that's the only thing, but I think that's a damn big part of it.
I mean, how can you explain? Because he talks about, these players aren't match fit. And, who... He complains that the players aren't match fit, but who's the one that's in charge of his players getting fitness? His coaching staff. So doesn't it also fall back on his problem and not having the staff that will help our players not get injured as much or be as match fit as possible. And we've talked about it many times as well when it comes to the pipeline. That pipeline could also go in reverse. And I'm talking about a medium-term loan or short-term loan stint of, like you said, like a maximum 4 weeks. Yeah. But them directly at RGV to get minutes, to get some chemistry, to get some of their morale back. If they're just stuck there in the reserves, up in the stands, they're not getting minutes, and yet you have an opportunity to make them catch up and be ready by the time you do need them. But you don't use them, and when you need them, they're not ready. Then, like, this whole thing of, last minute, okay, you're going down to RGV. Okay, now I want you to come back. And, okay, this week, no, you're not. You're not going to be playing. I mean, to me, it makes no sense. To the system, it makes no sense. I don't understand how Wormer, I don't understand how Matt Jordan think this makes perfect sense.
Victor for Glenn's show tonight. Glenn's show tonight has Matt Jordan on, talking and answering questions. And Victor had asked for,
Answering?
Supposedly. Hush. Let me finish. Victor had asked for questions on Twitter, that he could compile and ask Jordan. And one of the questions I asked was, and it was the same question I asked on the air a couple weeks ago that I hope to get an answer for eventually, but it's who makes the decision on who gets sent and how long they stay. And is there any reason why players are only staying for the one match and then being called back up immediately? Because they're pertinent questions, really. I know exactly what hotel Pat's staying at now. I'm going to have to crash that hotel. Not really, because I'm riding a bus, but that's okay. But I don't understand why those questions can't be answered honestly. And if they can't answer it honestly, shouldn't that be something that causes them concern? Shouldn't that be something that makes them take a step back and go, I don't want to throw Wilmer under the bus because he's the one that makes the decision. Or, I'm the one that makes that decision. Whomever it is, but I don't want to look bad. If that's the case, shouldn't that be cause for concern? Shouldn't that be something they address somehow, some way, instead of just carrying on business as usual? I'm tired of the business as usual. I think that's what fans are tired of, is the business as usual. I know that a lot of fans would love to see a name player be brought in for a bunch of money, because that would not be business as usual. And frankly, I don't want to see that. I really don't. I don't think that's the answer. Because if you bring that player in and he fails and, a la Kubo, then we're back at square one at the same place we've been all along, and we're never going to move forward. And then it makes them even more hesitant to sign a guy, a big name guy.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of comments regarding they're saying Matt Jordan is getting good questions, but he's always giving those same generic answers.
But again, I come back to who makes the decision on how he answers. Is he even allowed to answer? Because some things he can't. Let's be real. Some things he can't answer honestly. Well, He can't. No, he can't, because historically, if he answers some of those questions honestly, it puts him into a really bad situation.
Well, then why even go with the charade with the facade of a town hall meeting? If you're not going to answer the question, the unfiltered questions truthfully, then what's the point about having fans ask the questions? You're only going to get them even madder, because it's like, well, you're opening this up for true fan feedback, but you only want the sparing punches. You don't want to go the full out, unfiltered questions that the fans really want for them to be answered. But if you're asking
again, you're putting it on Matt Jordan, and I'm not certain that's a Matt Jordan decision, because it was the same thing with Chris Kennedy. I don't think Matt Jordan goes into these interviews or these question and answer sessions going, man, I'm not going to answer a single damn question with a real answer. I'm pretty sure it's a directive from somewhere. Honestly, I think it was a directive from the previous regime that's a holdover from the previous regime. And I really hope it's something that John Walker and Deanna Witter eventually squash. It needs to be squashed. You can see it because when they answer questions, when they're interviewed, they give honest answers. They give real answers. They're not pussyfooting around the question. They're not trying to dodge the question. They're being real about it. So I don't know. We're all frustrated by things right now, and there's a match tomorrow. We play Toronto, right? Tomorrow. That's what we play.
No, Atlanta.
Atlanta. Oh, that's right. Atlanta tomorrow. Sorry. I don't know. I don't have high hopes coming in for tomorrow's match. I would love to have high hopes. I mean, we've got the talent to have high hopes, but I don't think, for the talent that we have, I don't think our coach is good enough. I'll be honest at that level. Oh no, that's coming, Darby. Don't you worry. We're about to hit that issue head on. Like, it's coming shortly.
I don't know. It's like you got like Sean, like you're mad, you're frustrated for the Dynamo perspective. I'm frustrated for the Dynamo and the RGV perspective.
Sure.
And
well, you act like I'm not frustrated from the RGV perspective, though. I'm frustrated from the RGV perspective because I want RGV to succeed.
And that was my question to Matt Jordan was like what were his thoughts, or what did he think was still lacking in the pipeline to not only give MLS ready players from RGV to the Dynamo, but also make RGV competitive in the fact that they're fighting for playoffs year after year. I highly doubt he's going to answer that question, but I did my best.
That's okay, Darby. You have a phone that has mobile internet, so you shouldn't miss much. Cisco asked a question. We don't have the luxury to go all out for both matches, Toronto or Atlanta. So which one do we pick? Which one do we go all out for? If it's me, I think we go all out for Atlanta right now. It should be the easier pick off of the two, if you will. Atlanta's form has dipped tremendously overall this season, and they are a more attainable victory, I think, at this point, with their struggles with Pity and Frank de Bear and other things going on there, and especially with Breck Shea's injury. I think you have to go all out tomorrow. And there's an official Dynamo watch party for tomorrow, so you definitely have to go all out for tomorrow. But that's my opinion. I don't know, Edson, you, Toronto or Atlanta, which one do you go all out for? Which one do you play your full starting 11 against?
Atlanta. Number one because of the reasons you gave, but number two, if we do beat Atlanta in Atlanta, that is a bigger morale booster than beating Toronto in Atlanta because of all the whole media hype that MLS pundits still have over Atlanta United.
Sergio says Toronto because Atlanta has turf. I think that's actually a fair consideration too. But I also point to less recovery time between Atlanta and Toronto than there was between LAFC and Atlanta. So you're in a better position for your starters to start against Atlanta right now. And realistically, if they start against Atlanta, they're not going to start against Toronto. But if you don't start them against Atlanta and you start them against Toronto, we have another match next Wednesday. So back and forth. And that's also a cross-country trip when you're going from Atlanta to Toronto. That's a hell of a flight. or multiple flights, because it's probably not going to be one of their chartered flights. It's probably going to be a couple of layovers in that one. Liam asked if there's any Dynamo watch parties in Philly for the Wednesday Atlanta match tomorrow. Liam, is that what you're asking about? You might be the only Dynamo fan in Philly, so you might need to drum up some support, buddy. Hop to it. Chop, chop. Harry says, I think Toronto, because both teams are playing Wednesday. Toronto plays the Red Bulls and then plays us. You know, I don't know. I need to see the Dynamo show me that from a player perspective, they understand that it's on them. Because at this point, even if the coach doesn't get any better, which he's not going to, they can't continue to, operate business as usual. That's got to change. Sergio says, yeah, that's true. Didn't account for the Red Bull game. All out versus Atlanta then. Yeah, I mean, that's really how I feel. We do need to go all out versus Atlanta, to be totally honest with you. So, all right, Darby's probably on the road, and I kind of feel bad because I said I wanted to get to this before that, but something did happen Friday after the match, and from what I understand, it happened more than 30 minutes after the match, still before the midnight hour, which would have put it anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half after the match ended. According to sources, which I have multiple at this point, LAFC fans have claimed that they had an Airbnb in a hotel or Airbnb in a location basically right next to or adjacent to King's Court, which we all know King's Court is the El Batallon official bar, where they are pregame and post-match.
Their headquarters.
Yeah, it's their HQ for match day. It really is. And so away supporters, when they have traveled with their supporters groups for matches, have always been forewarned: avoid King's Court, avoid that general area if you can. There's just no need to go there because it's going to stir something up. Anyways, so these LAFC fans, there were 4 of them, claimed that they were walking by. One of them got shoved, and then a fight started, and the rest of them jumped in to try to help because it was so vicious and so brutal. Blah, 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 blah. And then we see pictures posted of a few individuals from El Batallon specifically, showing them with, and you don't see their faces, you don't see who they are, which is par for the course, which is how it goes. Which is, I should not say par for the course. That's how they operate when that is done. And that's not just an EB thing. That's something that happens.
That's a barra brava.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. That's how they kind of do those things. Anyway, so they jacked the guy's goalkeeper shirt. They jacked 3 or 4 scarves. They jacked an LAFC hat. The guys, apparently, the EB guys, it ended with that and life went on as normal. The LAFC fans said they filed a police report, or contacted the police. I've heard clarification that they didn't contact the police until the next day, which is really key and important information.
Yeah, that was actually straight from the girl.
Yeah,
so she admitted that it was not until the next morning where they filed the report.
Yeah, so you wait until then, after supposedly getting your asses handed to you. You wait until the next day to file a report with the police. That's because, let's be real, let's be honest, they were drunk off their asses, and they didn't want that to be in the police report. At the end of the day, look, this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I don't fault El Batallon members at all. From what I understand, and I've read a lot of stories and seen a lot of sources on this, these LAFC fans, and there's a video out of them in the stadium They were confrontational. They were chanting and being obnoxious fans. They were well aware of what they were doing. As I understand it, these particular fans, this is not their first experience at BBVA, which means they have zero excuse to get an Airbnb next to King's Court, which means they knew exactly what they were doing. It was not on EB social media. It was shared from an EB member's account on Instagram. Whether people realize that or not, it is on Instagram. Instagram photos never go away, whether you like it or not. Anyway, so suffice it to say, I actually tend to side with EB on this. Now, with that said, I still don't condone the violent behavior. I still don't condone any of that. I think that honestly, that needs to be cut out wherever possible. But anytime you have alcohol, anytime you have away fans that are being obnoxious, anytime they're on your home turf and given the mentality of the Brava that you had, the Brava style, the Brava level of support, you know what you're in for. I spoke with Darby about this specifically, and you as an LAFC fan or you as an away fan, if I go up to Frisco as an away fan, and if I'm walking by a bunch of Frisco fans wearing Frisco gear that I know are from El Matador or any supporters group for that matter, or I'm at or near a supporters bar or a bar with a bunch of supporters in it or a bunch of fans in it that are Frisco fans, and I'm wearing Dynamo gear, guess what? I'm not going inside. I'm not going to approach those fans, and I sure as hell am not going to stir shit up with them, because I know better. When you go and you are instigating, you are accepting the consequences, whatever those consequences may be. These LAFC fans knew exactly what they were doing. They went in with the intent to instigate. They went in with the intent to cause shit and stir shit up. They knew exactly what they were getting into. And they were hurt at the end of the night because they didn't come out the better fans. And then to have the president of Cuervos come out and condemn it and try to make it out that it was strictly El Batallon guys causing the problem. Oh, that's some horse shit fuckery right there. Like, that pissed me off to no end. You seriously can't. If I'm the president of Cuervos, I'm coming out and condemning my guys for being that freaking stupid. I mean, seriously. And then to act like and then there was some, oh man, and his statement included the fact that the bank LAFC Stadium will always be welcome and open to all fans of all supporters groups and all teams of MLS or otherwise, and blah, 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 blah. We will never tolerate violence. And then they have a guy out there threatening any Dynamo supporters going to the bank in the future. And it was a veiled threat at best, but it was still a threat. And so I just look at all this crap and I'm just like, it's just annoying as hell. And it's annoying as hell because it didn't need to happen. And El Batallon does not need to be fighting this battle. And by that, I mean, they don't need to be fighting this battle in terms of not the fight side of it. They don't need to be fighting this battle because LAFC, the president of the Cuervos, LAFC, the fans specifically that were part of this, they escalated it to this point. They are the ones who have caused it to be an issue. Now, there will be some consequences I'm 100% certain that will be levied, whether it's by El Batallon or the front office. I am 100% certain it will, that's going to take place. But at the end of the day, like I said, I side with El Batallon, man. I completely understand how this happened, and completely, you don't have to. And I completely understand. And like I said, I don't condone the behavior. I don't condone the fighting, but I can understand how it escalates to that point. Again, you put alcohol in a situation and shit's going to go down. And everything inside me from the moment I saw this break said, this is as much, if not more, on the LAFC fans that were part of this than the EB guys. And look, I'm not going to be one who just outwardly, at a the drop of a hat goes and defends EB. You guys know me. You guys, you were well aware. I do not support most of what EB ends up doing when it comes to this kind of stuff. However, if the opposing fans who partake of this or are subjected to this are creating an issue, that's got to be addressed just as much as the EB guys that were part of it. Like I said, I expect to see some consequences handed down. Dynamo and EB will handle their own. But I also need to see LAFC, and I need to see Cuervos, the president of Cuervos, come out and apologize. I need to see 3252 come out and condemn the actions of their supporters specifically, or their fans specifically, that were part of this. I need to see these things happen from the LAFC side, and I haven't yet. At this point, they have targeted EB. They have targeted these specific individuals from EB because it's an easy out for them. And because the information they're being fed from their away traveling fans, supposedly traveling, is that it was all EB. But at the end of the day, and remember, I put this on Twitter yesterday, it's incredibly important that we remember two things. Actions have consequences. Every action has consequences. And it's always important to wait for all of the facts and information to come out. It does nobody any good to jump to conclusions before the facts are in hand. One person's story does not a complete incident make. And as someone in incident response, I can tell you, usually you only get half the story when it comes to what's being said publicly. That is your moment of the day. Go ahead, Edson.
See, I'm usually one of the guys that says violence has no place in the beautiful game when it comes to supporters. I'm used to being, like with Stampede, where, we've had San Antonio fans when they travel tailgate with Stampede, and having, just talking about soccer, having a beer, and then because we understand that the rivalry is those 90 minutes, but out of that, we're all soccer fans as well. And I feel like this Barra Brava style of supporters groups have totally forgot that when it comes to their more extreme members. Like, there always will be extreme members. But go ahead. It's up to the supporters group to prune them out, to maintain their reputation as a supporters group. Now, having said this, that also includes LAFC supporters groups. How the hell? So number one, let's assume that what this lady is saying is correct, that it was their first time here and that they were not given any indication that King's Court was EB's headquarters. That is negligent. Hold on. That is negligence by the part of Cuervos and 3252 for not informing their supporters, not informing their members for their safety, where to hang and what places to avoid. If we want to take her what she said in face value, that still makes Cuervos and 3252 look bad, because it was extremely negligent on their part, and it actually makes them look even worse because they make it seem like they didn't care enough for their own members' safety to warn them about how things go around here in Houston. Also, even if you knew that, like, come on, you see a bunch of. I mean, it's not like you can't see EB gear outside of King's Court after the matches. They're out there. They're listening to music. They're drinking beers, and they still have their EB stuff full on display. How can you not see that? How hard is it for you to go another route? Or, like I mentioned on Twitter as well, where was BBVA security? Because that street, I'm not talking about the sidewalk in front of King's Court, but that street that runs behind BBVA Compass Stadium, that is still territory of BBVA security. Why if there's usually somebody out there still at around that time, why did they not mention to these guys to go around some other place, or mention that they need to avoid that because that's where the supporters group is? There was mistakes everywhere. EB for obviously letting their pride or their beers or whatever get to them and respond to the instigation by LAFC fans. The LAFC fans, obviously, for putting themselves in harm's way in the first place. Cuervos and 3252 for putting them in that situation. If, like I said, if we take what they said at face value, and BBVA security for not having a system in place that puts away supporters group and our own supporters safety as a priority.
BBVA and the Dynamo do have something in place for traveling away supporters groups. But in this case, 3252 and Cuervos did not send official level of supporters, I guess is the best way to put it, to the match. This was not shared with the Dynamo prior to the match that these fans in particular would be visiting the stadium. Further, I like I said, I mean, that's where I struggle, right? Because my only issue with what EB did was the violence of it. It was not the fact that they defended their home turf. It was not the fact that, that an incident took place. It's the fact that it got violent and got to the level that it did. But again, look, I've walked that route. I've been to that bar at that exact time after a match. And I can tell you it's extremely easy to avoid that corner of the street without a problem. And as Callow said, if they were looking for a bar, pitch 25 is literally a few steps away. And if pitch 25 isn't your cup of tea, there's Truck Yard. Eighth Wonder was probably closed by that point.
Well, they usually close. But Little Woodrow's.
Little Woodrow's is right there. Pitch 25 is right there. I mean, there are plenty of bars in that right general area that finding a bar would not have been an issue. To me, it was they were riding the high of their team having won the match and having stuck it to the Dynamo, quote unquote. I'm sure on their way out of the stadium, they were obnoxious and chanting and trying to instigate with fans on the way out. I'm sure they were trying to make scenes on the way out. Judging purely by what I know is how EB tends to handle things. EB waits for most fans to exit the stadium before they exit. There's a long walk from EB's corner of the stadium to King's Court. And the entire way, the entire group of them is walking together. If there's any question about where you're headed, it's easy to figure out where not to go. Don't go where the large-ass group of people just went. This isn't rocket science.
So Cisco says, let it be known there were LAFC fans inside Kings having beers with everyone, at least 10.
And that doesn't surprise me because they're all friends. That's the thing I think that's gotten lost in all of this is the fact that EB, for the general EB populace, they are extremely welcoming to anyone. Even if you're wearing the opposing team's colors, just don't wear Frisco colors. But as long it's okay. Like they're not gonna throw punches. And if you're cool and chill about things, they don't get upset because you're being respectful. That's what that Brava mentality is all about. It's about respect. And if you come in and you offer the respect to them, they'll offer the respect to you. And that's what I think is being lost in all, really truly being lost in all this, is the fact that this comes down to these four LAFC fans were disrespectful and honestly kind of got what they had coming to them. I mean, it sucks to get jumped and it sucks to lose some of your merch, but frankly, and we've said it already, these guys knew exactly what they were doing. You accept those consequences the moment you leave the stadium, walk by any Dynamo supporters, forget that it's EB, you walk by any Dynamo supporters and you start crap, you instigate crap, you're chanting or cheering or whatever it is, and then you escalate it. Yeah, you got to know things are not going to go well or going to end well. I mean, again, you know, you do stupid shit, you're accepting the consequences of what comes from that, you know, and it would be the same way if I was to go, like I said, go up to Frisco and go into the bar for for El Matador and start shitting there. I mean, I know for a fact my ass would get jumped, and I don't do it because I'm not stupid. Like, I mean, these are simple things, right? These are not difficult things to figure out. And, you know, this excuse that they didn't know, I mean, it's a 30-second internet search, if that. I mean, you know, if you're a half intelligent individual and you know that El Batallon is a supporters group, and these guys can't say they didn't know, they're LAFC supporters. If you know El Batallon is one of the supporters groups, you're going to want to know where they hang out so that you know to avoid it. I mean, I'm just, you know, like Cisco said, there were freaking LAFC fans inside King's Court at the same time having beers with everyone else.
I just feel like it's so easy, and I'm saying it by experience because I'm going to be the first one to admit that I kind of jumped the gun on this, but it's just so easy to do it when you look at the history of EB's shenanigans in the past. I mean,
but I wonder, after this event, doesn't it make you take a step back after everything that we know right now? Doesn't it make you take a step back and go, I wonder how much of that EB crap is earned and how much of it isn't earned? I wonder how much of it has been placed on them just because they're La Brava style, right? I wonder how much is just that. It's, oh, they're Brava, so they're this, that, and the other. I wonder how much is prejudice because they're Brava style. And
because if I recall correctly, the last time it happened was Tigres versus Dynamo at BBVA. But that I know for sure it was a couple of drunken Tigres fans that instigated the whole thing.
So yeah, and I mean, we've had how many matches at BBVA? We've had 7 or 8 matches at home matches at BBVA, and there's been no real incidents outside of the stadium like this. The only incidents that we can point to are the Tigres and now this one. I'm sure
Frisco.
I'm sure there's
Frisco.
Yeah, and we've had Frisco here. I mean, I'm sure there have been other incidents, but I'm sure they were very isolated incidences. The only reason this one became anything was because it was because the LAFC fans reports that they shared on social media said 30 to 40 guys. And because the picture they showed a girl with a small scratch near her eye. Literally, that's the only thing you see on her, by the way. I want to point that out because it's important that if she was being beat up by a girl, that she would have more than just a scratch next to her eye. Just throwing that out there. But also, you know, I think they were butthurt, and I think that they wanted to try to stick it to the EB people that they felt, you know, wronged them. And at the end of the day, they took zero responsibility for their actions. When you take no responsibility for your actions, I don't expect my guys to take responsibility for theirs. I'm sorry, I don't. And on the flip side of it, I appreciate the fact that I know that EB is handling it. I know the Dynamo have reached out to EB and they're working on something and they're going to do something about it. But at the end of the day, I appreciate the fact that EB is handling it, because that to me says EB understands that they've got to do something, whatever it may be. And I don't know what the consequences are going to be for the EB guys involved, but just the fact that they're handling it, I appreciate that. That speaks to the integrity of EB as a group. And that to me is a big deal.
So you can say that a public announcement or a public post kind of talking about this issue isn't necessary by EB.
I mean, at some point it may be, but I don't expect them to do it. That's not ever been EB's style. The Dynamo may come out with something and do some sort of response to Cuervos about it. But I think that'll be the end of it at that point. Darby says certain Instagram accounts have shown similar acquired merch after matches. This is just the first time the fans decided to go online and whine about it. I think that's important too. Other fans and other supporters have had stuff jacked, but they've also understood that, I probably created the issue. I'm going to accept the consequences. These particular LAFC fans decided that they were above the way it is, decided that, I'm going to be the one that's going to be the squeaky wheel and whine about it, probably because they lost the jersey and didn't want to lose the jersey. I'll be honest with you. They probably could have gave no concern over the scarves or the hat, any of that. They probably didn't even care that the girl was beat up, to be totally honest with you. It just came down to that goalkeeper kit because they said it was a personalized goalkeper kit. So that means
rare.
That means that guy probably spent $120 to $200 on that kit. And, at the end of the day, though, talk shit, get beat. I mean, I'll be honest. That's, it's just, you got to be smarter. And, I feel for the EB guys because, like I said, I don't condone the violence. I don't like to see that kind of stuff at all. I don't think that mirrors what I think that I don't think that mirrors what Dynamo support should be about. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, these LAFC fans took their own destiny into their hands. They took their own, they took their own lives in their hands, realistically. Darby says another point, if a group of 4 really got jumped by 30 to 40, the results would not have been going back to the hotel. There would have been healthcare needed. Cisco says they might have ended up dead, Darby. And that's exactly what I'm saying. If it was really as many numbers as they tried to claim, those pictures would be a lot more gruesome. It would have been a much bigger ordeal. They wouldn't have waited an entire night to call the cops. Those types of things. And
why was the girl the only one that had scars of the battle?
Yeah, because I think she ended up on the ground, and I think that's probably where that came from. But that's the thing. I mean, Darby says, quote unquote, I started a fight and then I lost it. I mean, that's about how I feel with these guys. Like, this is LAFC fans, in particular, these 4 LAFC fans being butthurt because they lost the fight because they thought that they were going to be able to handle it and they couldn't. And then realizing that there's consequences to actions. And, it sucks, but sometimes you got to be bigger than, put your big boy britches on and realize that, like I said before, actions have consequences. Cisco says, imagine how this would have looked if the fight had happened a few blocks away from the bar instead of at King specifically. I mean, yeah, that makes it a totally different situation. If this happens just down the street, outside pitch, but on that corner of pitch that's at the corner of St. Emmanuel and pitch 25, this is a different story. Because this is not an EV thing now. This is probably some other, other fans of some kind. And this would definitely be, there would definitely be a lot of questions asked about what the LAFC guys were, brought to the table. And I think that's part of it, because of EB's reputation, which I think after this and other things, I think is a little bit probably undeserved at this point. I feel like, they're, unfortunately, I think the hard work that they've put in this season and the last few seasons in particular, trying to improve their image, I feel like some of that is undone. And I think their leadership knows it and is going to try to do what they can to help with that. But, it comes on the heel of the talks about this new supporters council thing or whatever they're going to call it, where members of supporters groups are, of the Dynamo supporters groups are going to come together once a month and talk with members of the Dynamo. To come up with strategies and different things and talk about supporters related events and things like that. And all part of this whole supporter section, membership fee and things like that as well. I think the timing sucks, but I also think the timing is kind of good on the other hand, because this is an opportunity for the front office to step up to the plate and show how they intend to handle these things. And I think that would be really, really amazing if they came out and, the consequence was maybe like a 1-match ban. I honestly, I could be okay with that. Violence won't be tolerated. But we also can, condemn the actions of the LAFC fans that were involved. We hope and expect a response from LAFC from 3252 and from Cuervos. I think if a statement of that level was put forth, I think you would see EB as a whole, for the most part, and probably TA back that pretty heavily. And it would show the front office is very serious about, sticking to their guns and definitely that they're all about supporters groups and that they want to see that grow and they want to see that, improve. So yeah, like I said, we were going to talk about it tonight. We definitely talked about it. I mean, we broke it down pretty heavy. So any final thoughts on that, Edson?
Violence has no place in the stands or with support. Having said this, I think everybody got what they deserved, especially those LA. It sucks to say it. It sucks to say, but you looked for it, you got it.
Exactly. It's
and it's just the whole thing. Also. Trying to avoid these circumstances as far as EB and try to instill in their members, if there's going to be people, there's always going to be those dumb people that are going to want to instigate stuff. Try to ignore them as much as possible, but don't fall into their trap kind of thing. But with alcohol involved, it makes it that much difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100% yes. Once alcohol's involved, all bets are off, period. But,
yeah.
I look at it too, that I think there's a positive to be had, which is that there was nothing happened to these guys in the stadium. It only happened when they were right outside of King's Court or at King's Court. Again, on EB's home turf. I mean, it's just that right there, I think says a lot though, that nothing happened before that. So, that's an intriguing thought, Darby. I guess we'll have to see how TA, handles things as well. And again, it's going to come down to what the Dynamo decide needs to be done and what EB decides need to be done. I definitely think there's some of that still to come. I think we'll see something with that soon enough. But on the flip side, there's a match tomorrow, so it's not like they've got a lot of time. Thankfully, it's not a home match. God forbid if it was a home match. I mean, there'd be all sorts of questions being asked. But at least it's an away match, and we've got a few away matches. So the Dynamo and EB have time to iron out details and kind of go through the process. But again, I'm firmly on the side of this one I'm firmly on the side of this of EB on this one. I really truly am, and I know that probably shocks people. I won't say who they are specifically, but I'm sure it shocks people. Daniel, next year you won't have to be a member of a group to buy tickets in the supporters section. You will need to buy a supporters pass. You pay a $35 fee for the year. And you are able to be part of the supporter section, whether it's individual tickets to individual matches or whether it's a whole season ticket holder ticket for the supporter section. That's how that works for next year. Right now, supporters section tickets are technically available through the individual supporters groups. I know TA does have some available. But you need to be a member to get access to those. Sorry, I'm laughing at the back and forth between Cisco and Darby. The humor of it is great. So what else, Edson? What else do we want to talk about?
Well, there's RGV, there's the Dash, there's, for some reason you wanted to talk about Phoenix Rising.
Well, that was representative of the RGV match that they just had against Phoenix Rising. That's what I was referring to with that.
Wow. There is obviously as well, maybe other MLS news or any guys. Phone lines are open. 956-622-5977, or let us know what else you guys want to talk about in the chat. This is your show as well. So let's see what kind of hot takes you guys have. But Sean, go ahead and lead the next topic that you want to talk about.
I want to talk about the merchandise available this year. No, I'm just kidding. The lack of quality of our kits this year is something to be dreaded.
That is an Adidas problem.
Yeah, it really is an Adidas problem. I want to talk about. Oh, Cisco has something, so I'm going to wait for Cisco. Probably not relevant to what we're talking about. Welcome, Daniel. See, like you even got a shout out on the air. Make sure, Daniel, and I'm saying this to you because I think everybody else does at this point, but make sure you do us a favor, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Talk about the Dash. Go ahead, Edson, talk about the Dash.
All right. So, the Dash hosted the Chicago Red Stars last Saturday. I actually went to the stadium as a fan. I had some family that came over from Monterrey, and I invited them all of them over to the stadium. We sat in general admission. Red Stars got the lead early in the first half, and from then on, it was a lot of Dash. You know, the Dash were trying to build something. They're trying to generate an attack, looking for the equalizer. But the Red Dash defense was just too much for the most part for the Dash attackers. Whether it was, I'm trying to remember her name, because I even posted it on my Twitter where I was talking about that. But the biggest concern for me was the amount of offsides our attackers were exposed to. In this match, it was around 8 offside calls. Yes, 8 offside calls. Which leaves you wondering, like, why is it that our attackers aren't aware enough of their positioning relatively to the opposing team's back line and kind of adjust themselves to not be offsides? Like, I can understand 3, maybe 4 offsides against you, but 8? That is, to me, that's just too much. And I don't know what's going on, but to me it just shows like some sort of tunnel vision by our attacking trio. And another thing that I saw, and I posted it on Twitter as well, I was really disappointed by Ari Romero. Her passing was bad. You know, the Dash were trying to build up an attack, and most of her passes were directly to an opposing player. And there were many times where our defense was kind of caught off guard because of that. There was like a lack of connection between Kaelia Ohai, Kaya Simon, and the rest of the attack, Christy Mewis, and our midfielders and defenders. It seemed like most of the danger that Chicago had was because of these lost balls in transition. Now, granted, to me, the best players out there were Sophie Schmidt, Amber Brooks, and Claire Polkinghorn. They looked really well. And Haley Hansen had plenty of moments where she looked boss out there in the midfield recovering the ball and stopping the Chicago Red Stars attack.
Was this Ari's first match back?
No, no.
How many has she played this season? Not a whole lot. I know that.
She has played. I'll get you that. I'll get
All right.
you that stat.
So
8 matches.
8 matches this season. I look, players have bad games. We saw it with Lundqvist for the Dynamo on Friday. Sometimes it's the opposition you're playing against. Sometimes it's just you just don't have it, whatever it is that day. But you still have to, as a player, you still have to try to push through and continue playing. And she did. And I only say that because she has looked good other times this season. So it's not that her play is not good. It's just that she had a bad match. And I think she'll probably be the first one to come out and say it.
And that's why
I had a bad match.
And that's why I've been reluctant to like say it the way I said it, but I just couldn't think of a word that kind of described me at that moment.
Yeah.
Had a lot of high hopes for her, getting her opportunity, and just seeing all these wrong passes. And I was like, what is going on, kind of thing. And it just caught me so surprised that that was all I could feel.
Yeah.
And I know that's a topic in and of itself as well, based on these articles about how people outside the pitch express themselves about the players on the pitch. But hopefully Ari jumps back in this next match, or the next time she plays, and she learns from her mistakes this past match, as well as everybody on the field, on the pitch for the dash, and keep on building up, because this team is a really good team. But we've gotten a really bad spell, kind of going from the momentum of not having our women's national team players and not getting those results while they were out. Now, granted, we didn't have Rachel Daly in this match because she was serving her second game of suspension. I think having Rachel Daly back will kind of up their aggressiveness, because that's another thing that I saw. Chicago Red Stars in their front third were being very aggressive against the defenders, trying to provoke a mistake. Whereas the dash attackers were waiting back in the midfield line and just waiting until then to come up with any kind of pressure. So the Red Stars would kind of pass the ball within each other like if they were just playing in the park. And I hope I'm not boring anybody.
I mean, I'm ready to yawn and fall asleep, but that's not on you. I'm just long day. I'm tired. I didn't get a chance to watch this match. I'll be totally honest. It's a very, very, very busy weekend this weekend. But with that said, there's something I want to talk about related to the dash, but has nothing to do with the match in particular. Earlier this week, I guess that was last week, we talked about the whole Kim thing from SB Nation and the article that she wrote. And then she tweeted out at some point later that she expected Sofia Huerta to be a better player than she's been, when given the chance that Sofia Huerta didn't step up because she should have stepped up and become the star player on the dash, blah, 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 blah. First of all, as soon as Sergio hears that, he's going to defend Sofia Huerta with his life. I am certain of that. But on the flip side of it, I think that's also unfair, because she had good matches in that stretch. She's not the only player on the team. One player does not a whole team make. There's been a ton of injuries. There's been a lot of struggle in various positions. They've played well for the most part, but they've had some unfortunate things at different spots on the pitch that have happened. And I saw that, and I just really wanted to key on that for a minute, because again, we talked about last week that this is a person who clearly has a bias towards the dash and dislikes the dash for whatever reason, and clearly continues that. And my frustration at it is instead of SB Nation saying something about it, they ignore it. Instead of the people who should be managing this writer, dealing with it, instead of, talking about it, they ignore it. And that frustrates me as a Dash fan, as a Dynamo fan, because I sit there and I go, if you're not gonna deal with your people, why should I give a rat's butt what you write?
But can they really do something about it though? Because at the end of the day, it's their opinion.
Oh, they can. She's paid to write. They certainly can do something about it. They're the owning organization. When stuff is written, they own the content. They are paying her, therefore she is an employee or at least a contractor. Yes, they can come out and they can condemn what she said. They can, they can have a public statement about it. Whatever. Something needs to happen from them if they expect to maintain any respect with Dash fans or Dynamo fans, for that matter. And it's unfortunate because Dustin, is that his name? Dustin Richardson. Is it Richardson? Is that his name? Help me out here, Edson. You know who I'm talking about. Dustin. What is his? I'm pretty sure it's got to be Richardson. Dustin has gone and started writing for Dynamo Theory. I actually saw his post of his today, and I was like, "Holy crap, Dustin's writing for them now." It actually took me a minute because I didn't recognize the username because I'm so used to his other stuff. So it was cool to see that, and I did read the article. Always well written. But on the flip side, maybe this will drive more people to Darby's articles on MLS Female, as more and more Dash fans look for places to read Dash content. She could certainly be an outlet for it, for sure. Darby says, Sergio said Sofia Huerta has never had a bad match in her whole career. Darby responds with, depends on your metric, Sergio. I mean, 100% that ass hasn't quit for any match ever. I suppose that's fair. And I look at the Dash as a team that is missing something, and it's not them missing something on necessarily player wise, kind of like with the Dynamo. I feel like they're just missing, that one player who's the real leader of the team, that one vocal leader of the team. I feel like Amber Brooks is kind of that, but I feel like at times she's not quite that. She's the physical, imposing force on the back line, but from an attack standpoint, I don't feel like there's necessarily a team leader up there. Kalia is that, example, lead by example, but I don't feel like there's any public figure, in terms of public statements and that sort of thing, in the attack that's a leader in that regards. Mm-hmm. But another thing I wanted to talk about related to U.S. women's soccer, since we're already talking about that, it was came out this week with everything that it was rehashed this week about Christine Hinkle's statements over a year ago on CBN related to the U.S. women's national team and why Hinkle elected to not accept the invite for a call-up to multiple U.S. women's national team camps. And for Christine Hinkle, it comes down to essentially her saying, she doesn't want to participate in things like the pride matches for the U.S. women's national team. She didn't want to wear the pride jersey, and she doesn't want to support the LGBTQ cause, and community, essentially, is what it boils down to. And while she has a right to her opinion, I think it's unfortunate. And some people took those comments and extrapolated it out that she felt that the U.S. women's national team players were not very welcoming to fundamentalist Christians, is the best way I'm going to put it. Go ahead, Edson.
I believe those were her words, actually.
They were not her exact words.
Okay.
They were stretched a little bit. She did say they weren't welcoming to her point of view, but not specifically to Christians. That was changed. Mm-hmm. And I have concerns with it because, from Hinkle's perspective, she's standing by her faith and what she believes is what her faith says. On the flip side of it, it paints Christians in a bad light. as being, bigots and what have you. And, I hope that there are those who understand that not all Christians feel that way. Not all Christians believe that. And in reality, that's not actually what the Bible says to begin with, contrary to popular belief. But there's an intriguing subplot to all of this, and that's the question of faith in sports. Does a person's faith, no matter what they believe, does a person's faith, especially as a public figure, is that something that should be measured when it comes to, say, a potential draft pick? And let's exclude soccer for just a minute. Let's say football or baseball or hockey. We'll say soccer, but I'm saying let's not exclude it to just soccer. Let's say any sport for that matter. Mm-hmm. If someone has a particular faith and they're outspoken about certain things, let's say LGBTQ causes, for example, is that something as a general manager, and this is to you, Edson, that you feel should be something that would cause you to consider whether or not this player is the right fit for your team?
If they have a tendency to say words that are exclusive to somebody or hurtful or hateful rhetoric, then I wouldn't want them on my team. And
that's fair.
I think that that's the way a lot of general managers are right now, and is that, yes, you may not personally agree with every little thing that's going on in the world. You might be a very devout Christian that doesn't believe in divorces or doesn't believe in gay marriage, you name it. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't cause any harm or you get along well with people that are around you that think different from you, then there's no problem you being on my team. I mean, I'm not going to exclude you for your faith per se. If I were to exclude you, it's because you're being detrimental to the spirit of the team. How many athletes out there are devout Christians or devout Muslims?
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot. And you have atheists, you have Christians, you have Muslims that get along really well in sports. That's no excuse. Are you saying, are people changing the narrative to say, well, it's because nowadays people have it against Christians, or we're being persecuted as Christians? No, that's not the issue. In the U.S. women's national team, we have so many devout Christians. We have so many players that publicly pray, publicly in their social media posts mention glory to God or similar things. So it's not about that. It's the hateful rhetoric against people that are not like you or don't think like you do. That's where the issue is. That's where people get called out on. And people losing their jobs or not being called up anymore. That's basically what it leads to. So to answer your question, like I said, if they're being hateful, I don't want them on my team.
I think that's fair. I do. I really think that's fair. That's where I kind of fall on the issue as well. Like, I look at, I look at people like Janine Becky, who I know for a fact is a Christian. I look at people like Tobin Heath, who I know is a Christian. I look at people like, trying to think of another example that's another very famous soccer player. There are other examples of soccer players in the NWSL, in the international women's game, that are strong Christians, and yet they're still able to they're still able to be accepting of everyone, no matter who they are or what they are or, anything. And I think that I look at these things, and my struggle, like I said, my real struggle with it is it's that Hinkle has basically, without trying to, has basically stated that her view of her Christianity is this is wrong, and that she can't be part and parcel to this. And the problem with that is that basically speaks for everyone who's a Christian. And when it comes to faith, that's a really big leap to make, but it's kind of how some people see things. And that's.
So Ashlyn Harris actually kind of clapped back on the subject on Twitter, and she said, Hinkle, our team is about inclusion. Your religion was never the problem. The problem is your intolerance, and you are homophobic. You don't belong in a sport that aims to unite and bring people together. You would never fit into our pack or what this team stands for. Don't you dare say our team is not a welcoming place for Christians. You weren't around long enough to know what this team stood for. This is actually an insult to the Christians on our team. Shame on you.
And that's another thing too, and it ties to what Barron kind of said, which is, if you can't accept that that is what she believes, then how do you expect her to accept the LGBT community? And I think the answer to that is, I accept that that's what she believes. I accept wholeheartedly that's what she believes. That doesn't mean that I have to accept her ignorance when it comes to the subject. And her clear refusal to allow for an open conversation about it. Thank you, Darby. That's another thing too. She's given the religion a bad name. That's what I was trying to say, not doing quite so eloquently, but that's what I was trying to say. Look, you're always going to have people out there that are going to, for whatever reason, whether it's how they were raised or something, they essentially become radicalized. And Hinkle clearly became radicalized in the radicalized Christian version of radicalization. And it's just unfortunate because, she's a fantastic athlete who really did have a good potential career ahead of her, but because she opted to be so stringent in terms of allowing open discussion about things, she's basically talked herself completely out of a career. It's going to continue to cause problems for her in her career if she continues to try to be a soccer player. And look, there are athletes across the board that, and you mentioned it, Edson, that are strong Christians, public Christians. Steph Curry and Russell Wilson are two that, major superstars in their sports that are have been very clear that they're Christians. And yet they find ways to not make it an issue. And I think at the end of the day, I wanted to talk about this strictly from the aspect of it is a soccer thing. Ed, Cisco had mentioned it earlier that he wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit, or at least wanted it brought up. So I did want to do that. But, like I said, I just, it hurts me to see it. And it hurts me to see it because I know that it can be triggering for friends of mine. It can be triggering for LGBTQ community members. And it could be triggering for a lot of different reasons. And it's just unfortunate. It doesn't need to be. Those comments probably didn't even need to be brought back up. It's not like they were new comments. They were a year old. But somebody decided that because she did not play in the World Cup and was not part of the World Cup, they needed to create a controversy to try to get some eyeball views.
And it's that radical Christian agenda of we're being persecuted against by everybody's liberal views on this subject, and that's basically what it was. I saw that person who retweeted that interview, and you look at their bio. It's like pro family, anti LGBTQ, blah 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 blah. That was, I mean, that was what it's all about. But in the end of the day, like, even if we take that out of the subject, looking at it at the talent point of view, was she really needed? Apparently not, because these girls won the World Cup.
Yep. And I mean, there's obviously plenty enough talent on the U.S. women's national team, plenty of talent in the U.S. pool, that, you know, like you said, she's not missed at this point, clearly. So, you know, it's unfortunate, and I hate that we have to talk about it. But to be truthful, we have to talk about it. And so we've talked about it. We've touched on it. We've discussed, and we've shared our thoughts and our opinions on it. And I think it's time to move on. So let's talk world soccer right now. Tottenham Hotspurs are spending a crap ton of money this offseason. How much money have Liverpool spent this offseason?
I don't know. Not
You
much.
should go look it up. So Tottenham get quite possibly the best defensive midfielder / center midfielder available. That's a kind of still an up and coming player, Frenchman Tanguy Dembele or something like that. Dembele.
So the only player that they've really gotten, like they've bought, was Sepp Vandenberg from the Eredivisie, 17-year-old, 2.17 million. All of the other arrivals are just end of loans. Shea Oko, Danny Ings.
They had plenty of them out there, or a few of them out there. So that's good. I mean, Liverpool was a good team last year. Not losing anybody major at this point is definitely good for them, especially along that back line. I think they're still going to be in the conversation for a title run again, and I think Tottenham will as well. The moves Tottenham are making right now are just, you kind of, as a Tottenham fan, I'm kind of going, what happened to Tottenham? Because this is not the Tottenham I'm used to. Yeah. And it's kind of glorious, to be totally honest with you. Definitely basking in that glory. So I saw that there was a fan that, and I don't know if it was this past Tigres match, but maybe the match before, that ran off the pitch and went and hugged. I don't know, maybe it was not even a Tigres.
It was Gignac.
Gignac, yeah, went up and literally threw herself at him, is the best way to put it.
Yes.
That was pretty funny to see that picture scroll across my timeline on Facebook.
And he actually offered to pay for her fine.
That's a very good, classy individual right now. Did he also slip her his hotel room number? Just kidding.
No, but she did ask him. So, are you going to be end up sleeping on the couch or what?
That's funny. No, I just thought it was one of those kind of humorous things that I saw scroll across my timeline and put a smile on my face, and then I was kind of like, oh God, I hope this doesn't lead to more fans trying this kind of crap.
That's what I'm afraid of, actually.
David says Chelsea is using the Tottenham 2018-2019 tactic. You mean the tactic of not buying anybody? Gotcha. And that's only because Chelsea are forced into it, if I'm not mistaken, because of all their loan players last year. Aston Villa has spent right around $60 million this offseason. Yeah, Aston Villa spending a good amount of money this year. I'm kind of surprised. Cisco says, touch on the tournament next week. Do we care about the League's Cup or not?
I care because it's RGVFC players getting an opportunity with the first team. But that's about it.
That's about the extent of how much I care about this tournament. It's a chance for RGV players to show whether they deserve to be long-term MLS players.
I don't know who posted it, but he made a lot of sense. This is a lose-lose situation with the Dynamo and the League's Cup.
It is, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we say lose-lose. It has a slight positive in that it's another tournament that they can have some level of participation in. I kind of feel like MLS probably thrust this on the Dynamo and said, hey, you're a team that has Spanish followers. We want Spanish followers for this. You're playing a Mexican team. Have fun. Kind of feel like that's how that went. Sergio says Harden knows which team to support. So Harden Harden wore or introduced the Arsenal away kit for the season. Or at least was wearing it. I don't know if he actually introduced it. I'm intrigued by that. But, hey, if that's Arsenal's best signing this offseason, good luck with that, because he didn't actually sign for Arsenal. Cisco says he has a question. Why, when guys do this, they get bulldozed, but if a woman does it, the players giggle and laugh and take selfies? Probably because the optics of I've seen women carted off, but I think there's part of it that if it became physical with a woman, there's an issue legally speaking, and it has nothing to do with she's a woman, therefore they're going to handle it differently, but they'll handle it differently. It's an optics thing. It's, security's trained to handle that differently. If a guard or security member were to accidentally grab her in the wrong spot, that becomes a liability in the worst possible way. And you never know. Yeah. Baron says rotten banana, whatever that's for. Yes. Well, guys, we have like 15 minutes left and need some more topics to talk about. This show has actually gone by really, really, really fast.
RGVFC.
We've run out of. Oh, that's right. There's RGV. I was trying to help you out so you wouldn't have to talk about it till Thursday, right? You guys aren't going tomorrow, are you?
Yeah.
Oh. That's right. You guys are back to Wednesdays again. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So RGV played last Saturday. They played Phoenix Rising, number 1 team in the Western Conference, and a team that was coming in with an 8-win game-winning streak. 8 in a row, started by RGV as well. The Dynamo loaned out a couple of players.
3.
No, it was more than that. It's Eric McHugh.
Oh, that's right. 5.
Yeah. Yes, because it was
Eric McHugh,
Tyler Derrick.
Tyler Derrick, Alejandro Fuenmayor, Eric McHugh, Eric Bird. There's one more, and I can't remember who it was. Junqua. Yeah, and that's the 5.
And so the defense actually looked good as well. They were able to minimize the attack by Solomon Asante and Adam John, who were coming in on fire. But then Fueni did Fueni things and completely lost the mark of Adam Jan, and took advantage of that and hit the ball home for the 1-0 victory. For those of you that are asking why maybe Fueni is not getting minutes with the Dynamo, I think
we had 6. Memos. We loaned Memo. That's right.
Memo.
Thank you.
That might be your answer right there. And it all goes back to his tendency of kind of being a little too like thinking it on impulse rather than actually like being aware of what's going on in his surroundings when it comes to marking or making some defensive decisions. 6.
Sorry, that was for Darby.
Yeah, but in the end, like, to me, I don't think the team played bad. They had some opportunities, but it all goes back to not being able to finish those opportunities. And another fact is that these young players that now are getting called up to play, because we don't have Malik Foster, because we don't have Michael Salazar, because Wilmer Cabrera Jr. is off and on being called up because he's getting things ready to go to Butler. You're getting called up. You need to take advantage of those opportunities. You need to show what you got. But if you don't take advantage, but you're the ones that are demanding an opportunity, why should coach listen to you in the future because you're being given the opportunity to showcase what you've got, especially against a really good team like is Phoenix Rising, and you just don't take advantage of it. I mean, we all know who the starters are on this team, and if he gives you the opportunity, the trust to put you on the starting 11, run with it, man. Run with it. Do your best. But if you're gonna be timid or you're gonna make silly mistakes, then, like I said, that is not going to instill confidence neither on coach, neither on your teammates, and much less on the fans. And that's all I got to say about this match. To me, like I said, Sam Junkwa is playing better than in previous matches.
Wait. I need you to clip that and put it on loop.
Sam Junkwa is playing much better in these previous matches. Hey, I've criticized him, and just like I've criticized him, I feel like I have to give him credit when credit is worth.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is Callow's right. You should be appreciative of the fact that you're even getting Sam Junkwa at this point.
Let's not get carried away.
I'm trying to give Callow his shine. Yeah. On the flip side of it, right, we've got Michael Salazar, who's getting actually quite a bit of minutes now with the Dynamo.
Mm-hmm.
And is clearly the number 2 behind Morrow at this point, which to me is kind of crazy, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
His first touch Friday let me down so many times, though, and it wasn't him specifically. It was kind of the way the match went, but I love the spark that he brings. I want to see him, and I want to see Memo come in as subs and just see them wreck shop. I'm so tired of the Tommy Mack sub. I need Wilmer to get his head out of his ass and realize that's not the sub. That ain't it, man. That ain't it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he sees in Tommy Mack, but it's not good. Every fan believes this to be true. I'm sorry. You don't believe Tommy Mack is it.
No. But it was more along the lines like, is it really because he sees something in Tommy Mack, or he has no other choice than to put Tommy Mack?
But, okay, I guess we'll find out when Memo's fully back. If he continues to put Tommy Mack out there ahead of Memo, I'm done. At that point, I'm bringing signs to the stadium that say fire Wilmer. Fire Wilma. I may have to bring a sign that says that too. Fire Wilmer, because I can't stand any more Tommy Mack. And you know me, I was ready to root for him at the beginning of the season. Before the season started, I was excited for that opportunity. And he has just been an utter, unbelievably inept player who has hurt me to my core as a fan.
Jacob, what's the joke? Oh, okay. He says I can say something on that. No one thinks he's good. Sam Junkwa.
Yeah. Callow says he's player of the year. Jacob says sell the team. Cisco says Salazar tried taking on players on his own too much. He was too forward thinking, never really looked for anyone else.
I feel like right now in that aspect is like he wants to prove himself something.
Yeah, I think he's trying too hard to make that point that he deserves an opportunity to start when players are out. And I think he would be better served to kind of play the Memo style and understand what his role is and play that role a little bit better. But again, at the point that he's coming in matches, he's been a spark, but he's kind of been the only one. Like, he's trying to take him on, and I feel like sometimes it may just be as much he has no other outlets at that point. You know, Kyoto was just drained. Elise was drained. I mean, you know, there was nobody for him to really pass to for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were times that both of them got forward, Elise and Kyoto, and they made crosses in and what have you, and it looked good. But once Tommy Mack came on as a defensive midfielder, which what the frick? Come on, Wilmer, really as a defensive midfielder? He was horrendous as a defensive midfielder.
And everywhere else you put him.
I mean, but specifically defensive midfielder for this match. I mean, it was just so bad. It hurt, like, just watching him, I was just like internally cringing constantly. It was just so bad. Tactically, it was bad. He clearly was not comfortable as a defensive mid. You know, and unfortunately, he's not a defensive mid, so he would push high up the pitch, which left our outside backs and our center backs vulnerable repeatedly towards the end of that or you know, late in the match. And I just hurt to watch, man.
Which is why I sometimes feel like Wilmer's right now is overwhelmed. Like he can't even think straight.
Callo says, speaking of compromising nudes, if you donate $5 or more, you will get a personalized spicy nude of Edson. Darby says she self-identifies. Oh, because Cisco asked Darby a thought. Callo says, love you, Edson. Cisco says, $5 too much. Damn. Man, we have hit the end of the show point where we have nothing left to talk about. Saren is a better attacking mid than Tommy Mack. That's Saren right now should be either starting or at least the one of the first subs off the bench. Definitely a sub over Cabezas.
Which makes no sense why Tommy Mack was put in as center defensive midfielder if you have Darwin Saren on the bench.
Yep, agreed with you.
What does Tommy Mack have on Wilmer Cabrera?
Compromising spicy nudes.
Next time on Generation Orange.
Compromising spicy nudes. Cisco says hashtag wrong white guy. Cisco says for half a second I got excited because I thought Wenger was coming in. We don't have Wenger anymore, bro. Wish we did. I seriously can't wait for Memo to be back in the start. You know, not in the starting lineup, but at least in the 18. So that Tommy Mack could keep his ass on the bench. I am just so done with Tommy. Tommy Mack is the Arturo Alvarez of this season, and it's just gotten worse as the season's gone on.
But it's always been like we want our new Papa, our new Vicente Sanchez, whether it's Arturo Alvarez or Tommy Mack. And outside of Vicente, I think Vicente was the exception to the rule.
Yeah, and it's hard to find the Vicentes in MLS. And then to do it and to stick with it for as long as we have. I mean, at some point you just have to accept that he's not the player you thought he was going to be and go grab somebody else. At this point, I would rather stick a 24-year-old player out there, fresh out of college, and just let him run around. Because frankly, at least they're going to show more on the pitch than Tommy's shown at this point. Sergio says Kevin Garcia is a better attacking mid than Tommy Mack. Tyler Derrick is a better attacking mid than Tommy Mack.
Why don't you just say that you want Chuy Enriquez?
I do want Chuy Enriquez. You're not wrong. Chuy Enriquez would be amazing. David Copeland says bold predictions. So let's start with Wednesday's match. What's your actual prediction and then your bold prediction, Edson?
Actual prediction, 2-0 Atlanta United.
0-0. Draw on the road for Atlanta. What's your bold prediction?
Bold prediction is bold prediction for me would be a Dynamo win, any scoreline.
That's a pretty damn bold prediction, all things considered, right now. Bold prediction is that Joseph Martinez breaks his leg and is out for the rest of the season, and it happens because of Struna. Not intentional, just comes down awkwardly because of Struna marking him. That's my bold prediction on that. I hope it doesn't happen because I work with an Atlanta United's fan, and God knows she would kill me if that happens. And then Toronto on Saturday. What's your actual prediction?
1-1 draw.
Against Toronto. Actual prediction is 1-3 Toronto. What's your bold prediction?
Bold prediction, 2-1 victory. Michael Salazar gets his first goal scored in this match.
Ooh. Bold prediction, the single goal is scored by Darwin Saren.
Oh.
Who I'm going to predict is also starting this match against Toronto. I think at some point Boney is going to get a rest for a match, and I think Vera might get a rest for a match at some point as well. So this might be the stretch.
So David says, actual prediction, Dynamo 2, Atlanta 0. Callis says, 4-2 Atlanta United. Tommy Mack gets a brace, then pulls the shirt off to reveal an undershirt that says, "Why always me?"
And of course he does the double thumb pointing at it too. He's got to do that, right?
And then David's bold prediction is Wilmer doesn't sub Tommy Mack in.
That is quite a bold prediction, David. If that happens, David, I will buy you a beer at the next Dynamo match. Home match. That's a pretty damn bold prediction. Cisco says bold for Atlanta. Dynamo win with goals from Hairston and T-Mac. All right, waiting for his on the others. Man, I had something else I wanted to say, and I can't remember what it is now. Crap. Shoot. And it was pertinent for like 30 seconds we still have left.
Tommy Mack related?
No, it wasn't Tommy Mack related. It was something else. I don't remember at all what it was. I'll have to watch back the show and see if I can remember it.
Yeah. Well,
Bisama starts both games at attacking mid. Definitely a bold prediction.
We did kind of want to touch on what Jesus Acevedo got from today's practice.
Go for it.
Which is pretty much like going back with what we were saying about Wilmer is the same old thing. But one of the things he did say about, because one of the questions that Jesus asked was about road matches and how to get better results on the road. And one of the things that he said was that they need to be more aggressive. Like, how much time did we say this on this show, Wilmer? And it takes you how long to finally admit it? But it took Jesus to put him on the spotlight to get a definitive answer out of that.
Yeah.
And then his other article today, so be sure to hashtag Dynamo Read List. His other article, they were asking about Bizama. And basically what they said, what Coach Cabrera said about Bizama was that, so number one, he's still getting his visa situation in order. So he's not with the club right now. But he says, Wilmer says, we need to see his level, his fitness, and we need to see what level he is. We want to make sure that when he goes on the pitch, he feels good. And this league is difficult. It's more athletic, more physical than the Chilean league. That's for sure. Why I predict that we might see once he gets his visa situation in order, we might see him a couple of games at RGV, because we got to keep in mind that Bizama did not do any preseason with Huachipato. Yep. So he is in off-season form right now, and he needs to get back, and what better way than with RGV? But Going back to what we've been saying this past couple of weeks, let him stay throughout the week at RGV. Let's not tire him more than we have to try to get him back into fitness.
Absolutely. Well, it is time, Edson. I think we managed to crawl across the line tonight because that last 30 minutes was very bounce back and forth between a lot of different things. Guys, just so you know, a few of us are meeting up at Two-A-Days in Pearland off Beltway 8 and Pearland Parkway. We're going to watch the match tomorrow night. So if you're on that side of town, that is the south side of town, either Pearland, Friendswood, even Clear Lake, that's 10 minutes away from you, essentially. Come hang out with us. If you make it, I will buy you a beer. I'm hoping that the owner of Two-A-Days, who is a friend, will offer some beer specials so that I can save a little money in the process. But it's going to be awesome. I expect Sergio to be there. I expect Jeff to be there as well. I'm pretty sure they will be, actually. But yeah, come hang out with us at Two-A-Days. If this goes well and enough people show up, this might be a location that we can do a live show. Just throwing that out there. Even though that means Edson has to drive quite a ways, but frankly, sucks to be you.
Hey, I did it every day for a year and a half. One day is not going to kill me.
Yeah, you did going the other way, except it wasn't that late at night. That's the difference. It would be a lot later at night.
I've come from McAllen and ended up being here like at 1 a.m.
That's fair.
I'm
That's
fine.
fair.
I'll
That's
be
fair.
fine.
And also, guys, and Darby, if she's still there, can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm aware that that Texian Army, the bus for non-members, I think they're taking non-member options now. Darby, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Today is the 17th, right?
Today's the 16th.
Okay, the 16th. Yeah, that should be right. Darby can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I think they've opened up the bus for non-members. So go check that out for sure if you want to go to the Frisco match on August 25th. It's a whole hell of a lot cheaper than it's been in the past year. So definitely worth looking into it. Yeah, that's the one by Specs down there, Callow. The owner of that place is actually a member of Texian Army, which is pretty freaking cool. Cisco, you should come hang out. We could make it a little meetup for all of our. Wait, that's a legit phone number, 832-858-9689. He wants you to send him nudes, Edson. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Okay. So Darby confirmed for me. Yeah. So if you're interested in going up to Frisco and you're not a TA member, you can go check out the TA website and pay. I want to say it's $35 right now. $35 to get on the TA bus heading to Frisco. I promise you want to be on the bus. Much easier situation. You don't have to drive. Drink all you want. Have fun. And it'll be a good time had by all. I'm going. Just throwing that out there. I'm going to be on the bus. So
the wheels on the bus go round and round.
Also, this is a 21 plus bus because it's sponsored by Heineken. So make sure you're aware of that 21 plus. But if you're interested in hopping on the bus, and if you're interested in hopping on the bus and you know who I am, like personally, give me a shout on Discord or on Twitter or whatever, and we'll talk. Anyways, it's late, guys. Have a good night. I'm gonna go eat some food because I skipped dinner tonight. And
all for you guys.
We will talk to you guys next week, same time, same place.
And tomorrow, oh wait, yeah. What time's the Dynamo game tomorrow?
I think it's 7:00. It's Atlanta. Okay. It might be 6. Hold on, let me verify. HoustonDynamo.com. My brain has hit that point where it started to like physically kind of just shut down tonight. So I'm like, oh wait, what's going on? Okay, Atlanta, 6 p.m. Central. Ooh, that's an early match. But that's nice. That means it'll be over at a reasonable time. Hey, yeah. Saturday's match starts at 6:30 Central Time, so that's nice too. 2 matches that should be over before 9:00. That'll be great.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We'll see each other next week for another episode of Generation Orange. Hopefully we can continue speaking and discussing this and many other topics during the show, because it's just so fun, and that's what we're here for, to discuss not only Dynamo soccer but also world soccer, like we have done in the last couple of episodes.
And shout out to newbie Daniel for hopping in for a bit earlier. Shout out, man. Appreciate you hopping in and saying hi and everything else.
Of course. Thank you guys for your support. If you haven't done so, be sure to like this video, share it during the week, not just right now, but also during the week, so that way more people can find us, watch us, which will hopefully mean more people to interact with every Tuesday at 7 p.m. from now on.
Hey, Edson, before you close down, make sure you go check your Discord real quick. It's important.
All right, we'll do. Oh, like right now?
Right now, before we end the show, it's really important. I need you to play that to close out the show, if you can figure out a way to do that real quick.
Sure.
That's our closeout song tonight.
Seems legit. All right, guys.
Callow wanted accordion music. I aim to provide.
Wait, he wants accordion music?
It has to be royalty free. This is royalty.
Damn it.
That's why I was able to do it.
Alright, guys. I was gonna put some Ramon Ayala and stuff. Alright, guys. Have a good night.
No, for real. Good night, guys.
Writing's not that easy, but grammar